Impro Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization. In Los Angeles, we pay our respect to the Gabrielina Tongva peoples. Impro Theater supports the promotion of an anti-racist world, where we recognize diversity, equity, and inclusion as central to our values. We are listening, learning, and growing. We invite you to join us in taking action wherever we can to create a more just world. Hey everybody, welcome to Impro Talk. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Mike Rock. And you can go to improtheater.com for information, or you can email school@improtheater.com for information about all of our classes. There will be many more classes upcoming, and Impro Theater School has done an amazing job of keeping classes going all throughout the pandemic. And we have students all over the world as a result of having online classes, which is pretty cool. But now, without further ado, please welcome our very special guest for today, CoRy Wyszynski. Woo! Here he comes.
And I'd like to introduce my special guest, Mike Rock.
Thank you, CoRy. Thank you. From the couch.
From the couch. Didn't we schedule? Well, are we doing your show or my show right now?
This should be. We should have
simulcast. But that's okay. Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
And From the couch, CoRy Wyszynski. CoRy, I'm so delighted because we haven't talked. We've emailed and texted or whatever, but we haven't talked in so long. We're way overdue for actual time.
Well, you're lucky because you got me on an ice pack day. So that's usually pretty good because that means I'm not laying down.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I recently heard on some public radio story about there's a TikTok sensation apparently of a pug and his owner.
Oh yeah, No Bones Day.
Yes, No Bones Day and a Bones Day.
This is definitely a Bones Day for me, so that's a good thing. November 6th is the Bones Day.
All right, so allow me to do what I very often forget to do for guests on Impro Talk. And today I said I'm absolutely going to remember to do this, which is to give a bit of your bio to the audience. All right, this is CoRy Wyszynski. He is an author, a poet, a digital creator, an actor, an improviser, a photo alchemist. To his chagrin, he is the endurer of multiple chronic health issues at the moment. He's also the purveyor of his own art branded clothing, which I'm going to be excited to talk about. He is a member of a group of folks creating a podcast called See No Evil with Alex Kahn and Arlo Sanders. And as we mentioned just a few seconds ago, he is the host of a YouTube chat show called From the Couch. Did I get everything, CoRy?
Yes. My God, does that sound exhausting when you hear it that way? No wonder I'm so tired.
No wonder you're chronically fatigued.
Yeah, I know. No, I think that's everything. The newest stuff is From the Couch, which premiered this past summer, and it's demystifying chronic illness while also playing to the whimsy of life.
Yeah. That is great. And it's on YouTube. If you just Google From the Couch, or if you Google CoRy Wyszynski, you can see his name on the screen right now. If you're listening to this, I'm going to spell CoRy's last name for you. Wyszynski. CoRy has a, what would you call it? A font artistic sort of like flourish with his first name. He
Yeah.
capitalizes the R in his first name.
Which is also health related. When I was dealing with seizures back in 2013, we found out I had nocturnal epilepsy, so seizures while you're asleep. And when my friends said, "Oh man, you got to change your name to CoRy 2.0 because meds made me so much better," I was like, "Oh, that's silly. I'll just do a capital R." And Facebook allowed it. My apologies, Meta.
Meta.
But they
Oh God.
allowed it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna sign my name that way and everything."
I've never known the origin story of that, so I'm very excited to hear that. So somebody said CoRy 2.0 and you just changed it to CoRy,
Capital R, yeah.
a capital R. That was your version of making it a new CoRy. I love it.
Yes.
So I think that because we mentioned it a couple of times, I think we let's. Do you prefer to sort of lead with the all of the illnesses piece, that kind of stuff, and kind of get that out of the way so our listeners or
Sure.
watchers feel comfortable?
Sure.
Do
Yeah.
you mind if the
I
dog pipes in a little bit while we talk?
The dog is like, I want to know. I want to know. So I, on top of nocturnal epilepsy, since I was 8, have had chronic fatigue syndrome, which has had multiple names. Its latest is ME/CFS, or myalgic encephalomyelitis slash chronic fatigue syndrome. But in December of 2020, after a hospitalization in July, which I do not recommend going to a hospital during a pandemic. Just I
No,
don't. It's not the greatest thing.
not
But
good.
the nursing staff was amazing. The hospital staff was above a level that I didn't know was possible with bedside manner.
Well, that's
Like,
exciting. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, it was really good. So I have what's known as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic disorder that there are 13 subtypes. We know that I have hypermobility or hyperelasticity. That is what is causing the kind of the skull to slowly crumple my spine. For all those with a weak stomach, forewarned. And
Yeah,
it is,
there's gonna be some medical descriptions during this interview
yeah,
that people are gonna
that
have
should
to
just be flashing on the screen.
endure.
Trigger warning. But that is what is known as craniocervical instability. And you can actually hear it in my voice for all those who have heard my voice before. This is not how I normally sound. Those were diagnosed in December. And then we found out with a test in January that I have POTS and then nerve damage throughout my entire body, which is known as small fiber neuropathy. Are these things related? Stay tuned.
They may be.
They may be.
POTS is postural orthostatic
Tachycardia
tachycardia
syndrome.
syndrome.
Yes. The best way to describe that is everyone's had a mild form of POTS in their life or the experience of it.
Mhm.
You get up from a chair too fast, you're like, whoa, I got up a little too fast. You feel a little dizzy, and that goes away. Mine is a constant reminder. It's like that nagging in-law that says, you never call. You said you would call more, but you never do. I see you on social media, so you obviously have friends. I should be part of it. But yeah, all that is possibly interlinked with each other. There's a lot of comorbidities. What often is the umbrella term is dysautonomia. Dysautonomia is simply your autonomic nervous system is in dysfunction with itself. So my body sometimes has to remind itself, oh, we're breathing now. It's like that shouldn't be a thing you should have to worry about. It should just happen. That's why it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Imagine, Mike, if you had to think about you're going to take a deep breath or your heart's going to increase as you walk up the stairs, how stressful that might be.
Absolutely. And this is intermingled with this is small fiber neuropathy,
which is nerve damage. So that's causing burning and a tingling in my hands and feet. I am now a non-official spokesperson of compression wear. And
CoRy is holding up his hands with his fancy, his Charles Dickens orphan style fingerless gloves. Compression wear.
They're both from One Compress, but one I use that's a little more heavy duty when I'm doing computer work, and then one is just like, you know, day to day. And the compression wear that I wear for the lower extremities actually has my initials. It's CWX. So it's like, oh, that's like perfect.
Fantastic. So, and the thing that you were talking about earlier, that why your voice is slightly altered, is craniocervical instability, meaning that the cervical spine, the part of your spine that is responsible for holding up 8 or 9 pounds or 10 pounds of a person's head, is not doing its job.
Right.
And so you probably are. There are pictures of you that you've posted that have you in a brace to kind of stabilize.
Yes.
And I mean, this whole host of ills is obviously maddening and frustrating. But I would guess that things that feel like they sort of mess with your identity or who you know to be you are probably the part of it that's the most frustrating. Do I have that?
I would say the most frustrating is that no matter what I do, good or bad, I am left exhausted. And what's interesting about Ehlers-Danlos of hypermobility is your connective tissue is rubbish. It's corrupted, is the best way I can describe it. That also has almost like a medieval sound to it.
It does.
But there are 4 main ligaments in the neck, in the cervical junction region, that are just like loose fettuccine.
Yeah.
But the brace, when you see me in the brace and I'm able to talk better in the brace, it corrects what is known as proprioception,
yes.
which is where the body senses itself in space.
Yes.
And that has led to a constant 24/7 feeling of being on an airplane, and the turbulence will vary.
Well, that's
that was a digital mic drop. Did you hear that? Like,
I did.
Like there was a pin that dropped.
I didn't just hear it. I felt it. It was an earthquake.
Yeah. For all those listening, my face is very red right now.
I experienced a little bit of just like the tiniest little, like sort of the pinprick version of a cranial nerve disorder many years ago. So I do have some sense of empathy, not in any way, shape, or form approximating.
If you don't mind me asking, what was it?
Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's they tested for that. It's a dance of diagnoses.
Yeah. That sense of feeling like you're constantly on an airplane, and you don't know when the turbulence is going to come. You don't know. You have to kind of like gear yourself up to take deep breaths to walk up some stairs or something like that. That's just got to be so unsettling. all the time.
I never thought at 35 I would be with a shower chair.
Yeah.
But it's I have it and I'm so grateful for it. And it's like, why didn't I get it sooner? Man,
Yeah.
not just safety, but it's so much easier for my body.
I mean, speaking of that, I mean, that's such a lovely sort of way to put it. You, through your writing and your social media and your and from the couch talk show and stuff, you're able to be so funny and I guess like laughing in the face of crisis um, uh, and loving about the help that you're getting and that sort of thing. Where does that energy come from? That ability to remain positive?
That's a really good question. The way I've told people is this would be more terrifying and shocking if I didn't go through it when I was figuring out nocturnal epilepsy. So that was 8 months, 4 different hospitals, including county, which had just a farce type of script that I would love to see put on stage, where, because we kept being sent to different floors because of different doctors. But I would have the lights up and lights down would be so quick that it would just be a nurse putting on a quick sling or not. That was the difference between the nurses. But it's just I would have you hear the steps because it was that absurd.
Wow.
But yeah, when I was going through that, one little side bit I'll say of that is one little tangent. We didn't have proof that these were seizures. So we were at the point where it's like your adrenals are shot. And I was doing a lot. And that's a habit that I still haven't really overcome. But
you mean just doing a lot of stuff in your life?
Yeah, I was a producer for an acting studio while doing a play, while rehearsing 2 others, while doing scenes, while working a 30-hour job a week. So average LA. But I was seeing an acupuncturist because my roommate, Faith, at the time, no joke, I had roommates Faith and Grace at different times. But she recommended this guy. He had a sliding scale, and which was really helpful. But he put me in the room and we did a session. It was amazing. It was the first solid sleep I had in like 6 months. And because the way nocturnal epilepsy works is like I would blink and 8 hours would go by and my eyes would just have a sandpaper like feel to them. My body was slowly just breaking down. Couple days I needed a wheelchair throughout that process. But then I came back the next week and he's like, you did so well on your back. I want to do, you did well on your stomach. I want to see you on your back. So he did it. He put on the relaxing music. He left and the music started skipping in my head. And the next thing I know, I'm exacerbated and out of breath in this guy's arms. I almost fell off the table with like 30 needles in me, which would have been horrific.
Wow.
And he said the only reason he came in is because the CD was skipping. I thought there was an earthquake, but it was just my own body shaking.
Oh my gosh.
So because I went through that kind of stuff, when a doctor's like, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to see a pain specialist. Oh, great. I've seen a pain specialist before. So like, I already know the cards. The hand's a little more harder to deal with this time. But if this was the first time I would be doing it, it would be soul crushing. I had several rehearsals. And then the show got postponed and they're like, well, we're thinking about maybe a new director. And then they brought in this guy that's just like really avant-garde, and he just went for it.
He's just, let's go for all the peripheral nerves.
Yeah.
Uh, what was the, if it's okay to ask, what were some of the early moments in like 2019, 2020 when you started to feel things were going kind of haywire again?
November 2019, I started feeling really tired again. I had internally decided that in January, after that, I wasn't going to be auditioning for any more shows at Impro. I just kind of kept it to myself.
I should say for our audience listening or watching that CoRy and I know one another because of Impro Theater Los Angeles, a theater company and theater school who do full-length improvised plays, and the school teaches people of any stripe who want to learn how to improvise full-length plays. That's how CoRy and I know each other. Sorry.
And I first met Mike Rock through theater sports, like Network, and also I was a technical improviser, which is also something that is, I think, very niche of impro, and something that I fell in love with for sure. So it was, but at that point, I had already said, I'm not going to do any more shows. And then the pandemic took care of that. So
Right. Yeah.
interesting how that happens. But yeah, 2019 started feeling very tired, and it was the kind of tired that I had when I was first going through seizures but didn't know it. So my first concern was my meds have stopped working, which I've been seizure free 8 years, thank God. But it does change, and meds do have to be changed. But January, we were recording See No Evil, which is a improvised video game playthrough horror podcast that I did with Arlo and Alex that you mentioned. And there was one time that Arlo had to pick me up off the ground in the parking lot. I passed out in my car. Apparently, I opened the door to get air, so I was on the asphalt. And then there were times where after we would record our episodes at the theater space, I needed to lie down for 10 minutes because it felt like the room was moving, which was, again, a premonition, an early foretelling, foreshadowing, which was weird because the game we were playing, Amnesia, the main character, as he gets more off kilter, the room does exactly what I see now. Because I also can see sometimes the wall slightly breathing, or the stairs, or like a separate room moving just a little bit. And I'm, for all those listening, moving my hand just very slightly, but enough where you're like, I'm dreaming. This isn't real.
Yeah.
But it's my visual stabilizer trying to catch up to the proprioception feeling, because our minds like to protect ourselves, and it's saying, oh, this is what the body's feeling, so we want to match this. So, no, you're good. You don't have to match this.
That airplane turbulence situation that you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
So did you think that it was possible you were actually having daytime seizures?
Yes, that was another fear. So we thought it was daytime seizures, or it could have been too, because I fell in January and really hit my head. So I thought, okay, maybe a concussion, should have went to the doctors. But I didn't. And in hindsight, that was probably actually a good thing, because I wouldn't have found the doctors that I have found if I didn't wait.
Okay. So because you would have been on a different track as a result of that visit?
Right. Yeah, there would have been a lot more like, well, your vitals look great. You look like a healthy 35-year-old. Keep up the exercise. Yeah. But I don't do exercise. I don't believe in gyms. I believe in natural exercise.
If
So
I
like,
showed you a gym, would I convince you that gyms exist, or do you just think they're a hallucination?
no, they're a construct created by the fashion industry because they needed to create a different type of athletic wear.
Lycra, body spandex,
Yep,
lycra, that sort of thing.
yep.
And
They
you're
all
holding
work
firm
in.
on this position, is what you're
Oh
saying.
yes, yes. As much as my diseases will get better one day. Jokes. The pandemic had a weird effect on me because I was very sick through like 10 to 12 years old, where I missed every holiday. The saddest one, because I'm all about all about a little bit of sadness and everything. If you've ever seen me on stage, you're like, wow, that got really deep.
The pathos is
Yes.
evident when CoRy. I should interrupt it once again. Say CoRy is a brilliant improviser and actor, and when you are on stage, I've seen you have this. There's this like thin like thread of pathos or gravitas through it, which is what makes it a real three-dimensional character. Anyway,
Right. Thank you. It's it's something that I've always been able to just have under the surface, and I think it's because of the life that I've led and that I have and I have an adverse effect to hiding your emotions. Granted, there's better ways to express them. Like I've had breakdowns at restaurants before, but we found out that that was because anti-seizure medicine weren't working. But yeah, I'm not for bottling up. And but yeah, the saddest one was I was on the couch and it was Halloween, apropos, because we just had Halloween. I was so upset because this was still a year of trick or treating. I was like 10 years old, still very excited to trick or treat. And I was like, "Can I still wear my costume?" And my mom and dad said, "Yeah." And they said, "Put out your candy jar, your little candy bucket from McDonald's." There were candy buckets when I was growing up, and I had the ghost. And I put my candy jar, and every time my parents came to check my temperature, they drop a piece of candy.
Oh.
So it's cute, but it's also like, wow, that's really sad.
It's sad, but it warms my heart in a way because I that shows how much your parents wanted to
Oh,
try to keep things normal for you.
absolutely. And so because of that, the pandemic was reconnecting to my childhood in a way. As I
And
got worse, when it was starting to hurt to breathe, and COVID alarm bells were going off, and doctors were calling me and said, "You got to get a test immediately," because my symptoms were fatigue, shortness of breath, pain. Pain hurts to breathe. Brain fog. I had everything except the cough and fever.
we'll come back to the present, but I want to just do a little biographical research real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up in Agoura Hills?
No, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I was
Okay.
born in Panorama City, and then we lived all over, like from North Hollywood to Calabasas. My dad lived in Agoura Hills after college, and my grandma managed apartments in Beverly Hills. She was quite a woman. She was a chain smoker, 3 packs a day, half a bottle of wine to get you through the day, and you got to bet on the ponies because life's too short. And I picked winners, Mike Rock.
Did you go to the track?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was I was probably the youngest kid there that was going to
Santa Anita?
Yeah, Santa Anita, and the other one, Hollywood Park. Yeah, all those. And she would be like, what horses do you like? She taught me how to gamble early.
It's funny because you're a fashionable dresser, and CoRy has sort of uh, I would say sort of neo 1940s 1950s kind of sensibility.
Yep.
Um,
Very close to that. She was a slick dresser. She would buy a lot of my fancy outfits when I was younger, so like bow ties and suspenders and vests. And we always knew it was a pet present from grandma because you could smell the cigarette smoke when you opened up the
oh
package.
my gosh. Uh, did did were did you spend a lot of time with her? Or was that just occasionally,
Yes.
or okay?
Yes, when my parents separated when I was 9, mom moved back in with her mom, and that was where I spent every other week or weekend. I was actually in very much the upstairs downstairs of LA because my dad lived in a I don't even know if it's a flat. It was a single, but we didn't even have a table, dining room table. We had a moving box. I just kind of slept on the floor, and it was by the train tracks of North Hollywood. So a very poor part of the neighborhood when I was growing up, especially.
And then when you went to your grandmother's house, it was
Very lavish, very bourgeois. Her best friend was in the penthouse up above. A woman named Raya Gould, and she had a golden harp.
when you were there, when you were a kid. Did you appreciate the harp music?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. My mom was a classically trained pianist, um, and probably would have done. Maybe I think she got very pressured in by her dad. It was technically her stepdad, but it was the only man she knew to be her father. So that was my grandpa, Bert, who had a magic shop. And that's the one that married my mom, who was into the ponies and the track, my grandma. Um, Win was her name, by the way. So now that even fits a little more
It's
into.
the names in your life are just so incredibly apropos to
Yeah.
the personalities.
So I would actually go upstairs to hear Raya practice, and my grandma's like, "Okay, well, I just made you an iced coffee," and I said, "I'll drink it." So I'd finish the coffee and then run upstairs.
Um, what was the earliest form of artistic
Probably,
pursuit?
probably voiceover, because I was,
Really?
yeah, I was recording my voice on an old fashioned mini tape recorder, the same one that my mom had when she was getting her master's in statistics, and then eventually she got her PhD in organizational psychology. Brilliant woman, my mom, and which was funny because here's a moral for everyone listening. My mom hated math, and she became an organizational statistician. So
Wow.
you never know what you'll fall into later on in life.
Do you credit your mom's side of the family, or your mom herself, with the science part of your science fiction
Yeah,
interests?
yeah. Dad was really into horror, and he was very artistic, but mom was very analytical. And my dad worked behind the scenes, so he was in the studios. So I saw a set when I was 8 years old. That was the first taste of movie magic. And but yeah, I was recording my voice on voiceover before I was auditioned for anything. I had a chance to be in Matilda, the 90s one,
Uh-huh.
and it was either go be the food fight kid that gets started. I would have had 2 lines. I would have been hit with the first food, and then so it was like a featured extra, non like supporting, but really not. And my dad said, well, it would be in the summer, and that's usually when you fly out to see your grandpa in Michigan, his dad. And family was very important to me. And he's like, I'm gonna let you choose. Do you want to be in this movie, or do you want to see your grandpa? And I'm like, I want to see grandpa. So I saw my grandpa. But yeah, I would say it was definitely making silly voices and building Legos. So kind of like crafting worlds, world building.
I love that, which is what you end up doing when you write your novel. Your mother ends up.
She worked for McDonnell Douglas before they became Boeing.
Holy cow. Okay.
So she was there during the merger, and she worked, I think I can say this. Yeah, there's no like top secret. She worked on the C-17 project.
Oh, she did. Wow.
Yeah.
And your father worked behind the scenes in film and TV.
He was a construction worker for Sony Studios, and then was like, I want to kind of do things that are a little more on set. So then he started getting into set dressing, and his on-set dressing debut was I Am Sam.
You know, he's part of your support network right now.
Oh yeah.
All this.
He's my best friend and caretaker, rolled into one.
And I think your mom.
She's in New Mexico.
Okay, yeah.
She actually flew out. My dad just recently turned 70.
Happy birthday, CoRy's dad.
Greg Wyszynski, or the Wizard of Paint. That's one of his paintings right there. Yes, it's he does fluid acrylic work, liquid pouring. So his paintings almost look like seascapes captured in time.
Nice.
But yeah, thank you. I'm gonna have to, Dad, write that down.
Is you well? That's it's recorded.
Yes.
And is your mom still working in New Mexico, or
no? She is also retired, but she was out here. It was the first time that the family had all been together in the same state, let alone same room, in like probably 8 or 10 years. And it was the first time I saw my uncle and my mom since getting really ill. Okay. So it was emotional, but with going into surgery next week, oh my God, November 15th.
The countdown.
Ooh. Countdown. Yeah, I even made a countdown to surgery graphic.
I know
I'll
you
send
did.
it to you.
I know you did.
Oh, you saw it?
I did, of course.
It's fun. It has like a submarine, and there's a spinal cord and calendar and pages. It's very whimsical and absurdist, and right in my pocket.
You know, a lot of artists had to kind of rebel from their family in order to pursue their artistic endeavors, and yours is sort of the perfect.
It's the exact opposite of rebel.
Yeah.
My dad, growing up in Detroit, his dream was to always work for the studios. So he followed his dream.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I was like, I want to follow my dream. He's like, hell, I did it. So it was already like, it's possible. So it wasn't like just a pipe dream, because my dad was able to do it. So it was a little more realistic than just gonna be some artist. And my mom, she said, I'm really glad you found the artistic side again, because I know that's when you were the happiest. But secretly, I was hoping you had a full-time job. But I now support you in whatever you did.
Oh, I'm happy that she does that.
She said that in like 2013.
I want to mention that CoRy's novel U-Turn, the letter U-Turn at Next Synapse, is available wherever you buy your books. It's a sci-fi novel set in the fractured mind of a person between two timelines, the late or mid 2000s and the early 3000s, I guess is the best way to put it.
And as the character unravels, the author was going through his own unraveling with seizures. So a lot of the re-edits, probably like the fourth draft, things changed drastically, and the book had a little less filter to it. And my editors were somewhat combative because they're like, you're supposed to cut out words. And I said to them, I'm like, okay, I cut out 50,000 words. They're like, great. I added 90,000.
People can find your, first of all, people can follow you on social media and find all kinds of stuff. Your Instagram handle.
It's my name and then WYSZ. So it's CoRyWYSZ at CoRy Wise.
CoRy is a photo alchemist and does these really interesting blends of, I guess you'd call it digital painting over photos.
Yep.
Sometimes with text.
Have I ever told you what photo alchemy means?
You haven't.
Experimenting with the static medium. When phones first came out,
in 1876.
In 1876. Do you remember Palm Pilots?
Of course, I had Palm Pilots.
Yeah, I had a Palm Pilot, a Visor 7, which was the first one with in-touch stylus technology.
Yep, I had it.
And so I did not like texting when it first came out. I was very against it, but I just didn't like it. So instead, I was editing photos. I was doing whatever was available. If it was balance and color balancing or like exposure. I think when photo editing first came out, there weren't apps like there are now that can just do incredible things like Magic Eraser, where you just take out something out of the background, like goodbye painting. And then for all those listening, the painting just vanished. The idea behind photo alchemy, and I didn't know what the show was going to be called, like Last Minute Photo Edit or something like that, I think was the working title. And I thought, okay, I've been doing this for 10 years. So, and I can do them pretty fast. Like I was able to, not anymore, since being ill, the timeline of things, even things you enjoy, that's probably been the hardest thing. Yeah. And then you edit, you bring, maybe there's mistakes that you did when you were first doing something. Like first editing a sound file and you're like, oh, I forgot to cut out noise. Well, when you're ill, your mind doesn't think like it usually should or like you're used to. So old mistakes, old habits come back, and it's like, you can clearly hear my cat meowing in the background wanting food. Like I should have cut that out, and I would have, but it didn't hit the mind at the time when I was doing the thing. So when I was well, I was able to do like a photo and turn it into a creation in like 20 minutes. And I then found I use a Samsung Galaxy, not sponsored, and not yet. And screen recording. There was an app called Screen Grab. And so you could record. I was like, okay, so if I can broadcast this through OBS, open broadcasting software, and when I found out that, oh, there's a way that I can screen grab and then open broadcast my phone, well, I think that would be cool to see the alchemy of it. And I said, what do you think of the name Photo Alchemy? And they're like, yeah, this is cool. So it became a stream, 2 hours every Monday. And then my buddy Joe of J Rap Design, Joe Rap, he's one of the Beards of Minneapolis, the Beards being Bearded Company. I said, yeah, I'm thinking about a logo. And he's like, I actually made you one. And he sent it to me, and that's the tried and true logo.
It's this sort of cool, like a Erlenmeyer flask on its side with
Round bottom.
so round bottom flask on its side with stuff going in it, and it's got kind of like the guidelines for a photo capture around it.
Yep. So that has become like, that encapsulates everything that I do.
So if you go to Lost Art of Photo Alchemy, alchemy is ALCHEMY, lostartofphotoalchemy.com, you can see CoRy's cool manipulated photos, and it's all just such great stuff. The visual art. Let's there's so many things, CoRy. You have so many things. It's very difficult to choose. There's one piece that I wanted to, well, there's a couple pieces I want to specifically mention. One is called Ribdacted.
Yes.
And it is RIBBDACTED. So it's like the word redacted and the word ribbit together. Yep. And it's kind of this frog creature in a jacket and tie, or at least a shirt and tie, with an old reel-to-reel tape machine, having clearly recording other frogs, and then choosing what to send out to the frog public. It's such a great shirt design. I just really love that one.
Thank you. The idea behind it was, I loved reel-to-reels, and I wanted to experiment with recreating a real object through reference through multiple layers. So that reel-to-reel is 212 layers.
Wow.
Separate shapes or shadings. And yeah, The Conversation's also an amazing movie. So I just love the idea of a mob boss frog talking to this informant, and here's this really over-caffeinated tree frog that's just trying to listen to the conversation.
The Conversation, which is an amazing movie by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Gene Hackman. Talia Shire is in there. Frederick Forrest, I believe, is the boyfriend.
Holy cow! Nice pull.
That is a movie that I love that movie so much, and I did not know that was what you were referencing. So I'm delighted to hear that. You also have this character on some shirts that's, and whatever else, it's sort of like a butler character in a
Swanee,
old-timey tuxedo with a swan head. Yeah. And in some cases, the thought bubble or the voice bubble is saying staying in, and in some it's saying going out. Like, where does that come from? Or I mean, I don't want you to explain your art, but
so that I love it. He's actually in this. He's in the Admiral Meowsters, which is a submarine in my talk show that just is every now and then coming across the screen. Swanee came about from one of the new main company members, Leanna Dindal. And when we were in the pandemic, we were talking back and forth. And as I was starting to get sicker, she's like, well, hopefully your butler will show up soon. I'm like, no, but COVID protocol. She's like, oh, he's a swan. So as soon as she said that, I went to my phone immediately, created Swanee, sent it to her, and I was like, this is Swanee. She's like, he's perfect.
So I want to just do a little footnote real quick. When CoRy says main company member, he means in our performing group, Impro Theater in Los Angeles, we have the company of performers and then the community and school. And Leanna Dindal, you're referring to, is a recent a person who's recently joined the company of performers. Wow, it's so amazing that you created a character and art adjacent to that character based on a conversation with Leanna. That's great.
In a way, it was very much an improv suggestion, which is what I loved also about photo alchemy is I would ask for objects, or people would send me their pictures, and that would be the inspiration.
Fantastic. There's so much more. Just so people know, CoRy is a prolific, I guess in the olden days we would call it blogs, but CoRy writes a lot, and publishes what I would consider to be sometimes poetry, sometimes political commentary or satire.
Yep.
CoRy, can I read? I mean, I forgot to. This is what I was going to do. The best laid plans. I was going to email you and tell you some of the posts that I really like and ask you to find them and read them, so that it could be your voice reading them.
Oh,
I could probably drop. Why don't I drop one in the chat?
Let me see if I can find it quickly.
Well,
oh yeah, drop it in the chat.
Let me drop one in the chat and just see if I could get you to read it. I'll give you a short one. I have so many of them captured because they're just it's unbelievable when you go to CoRy's Medium, the publishing, the online publisher Medium. CoRy has a extensive, like so much stuff. CP on Medium, CoRy is at cp.wyszynski. This one is from February 22nd of 2020, which is still pretty early. Actually, before the pandemic was known as a pandemic.
Right. I think what I was doing at this point is I was just trying to write every day for a year, because I tried to do that in 2012, and it was going to be called a book called Mismatched Shoes, the unfinished complete anthology of a 28-year-old, because that's how old I was at the time.
Yeah.
But I got 9 months, which is pretty good. I was happy with that.
Oh yeah.
Of writing every day for a year. But if anyone wants to challenge themselves, even if it's just a sentence, it's fun to see if you can do it. And it's exciting when sometimes you only write like a paragraph, and then it's like, how did it go? I wrote 6 chapters.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Minerva and Daniel didn't know it then, but more than a few pawns were going to be taken on their way to the Saugus County 23rd Annual Chess Championship state qualifiers. Holy cow, was this before Queen's Gambit?
It was.
Oh my God. I did not realize that I am also a medium.
You
Get
are.
it?
Nicely done.
Thank you. It says
screenshot.
screenshot.
Can you click that screenshot for me?
Yes. Oh God, save. I now have to open it.
Okay. See if you can.
Saved it. The under downloads.
Oh shoot! I hope you can find it.
Let me see. Let me see where it's saved it.
This is the part of
there it is. Oh yeah. Okay.
This is the part of Impro Talk where I make CoRy read his work.
Okay. So this is and I'll tell you the way this ends is very important. Forgive me for those who hear me cry. My tears are for you who hide from the light. The world is hurtling through uncharted waves, mystical boundaries changing day by day. Your daylight, ever fading, will come, stronger, livelier. But now hold your hand to your heart as it breaks. Feel its warmth in your hands, then close your eyes. Boy and girl, the world is ending, but it is not the end of the world. So my mom said on the phone, this was like when the pandemic was happening, I said, the world is ending. She's like, but it's not the end of the world. It's our version of the world, what we see the world as. Safe, unchanging, protected, idyllic. That is not our world. Not to get too political, but in terms of nature too, like that is not the world. That's what you're maybe taught as you're growing up, and Santa Claus exists, but realistically, Santa Claus is still in a penitentiary for something he did several years ago.
That brought a tear to my eye. That one, CoRy.
Yeah.
Can
that
you?
was when I was just starting to get sick too.
Was it?
Yeah.
Can you read that other one I put in the chat? It's another one that I couldn't copy and paste because you posted it as a
photo, right?
Photo, right? Which is part of the mystery of photo alchemy.
Yes, exactly. This was also too before I had the logo. Raise your head if the board is blurry, and look at all the rabbits in a hurry. As the scared little boy starts to scurry, blend his bones into a slurry. His soul is weak, make you move. The lights go out for some too soon. Yeah.
Holy cow. I have like, you know, like I said before, I had plans to do a million of these. I've saved so many of these that I'm going to find one and read one that just really.
What's fun about the Inktober's too is there's a writing for each one. So yeah. It's kind of sometimes it's just about the piece, and then other times it's like has nothing to do with the piece, but it does.
Yeah, a slightly more oblique, maybe sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Let me just. I have, as I said before, so many screens for different CoRy things.
That must be exhausting. Geez, now I know how I feel.
It's exciting.
Now reading these two, it makes it like I can almost remember how I was in that headspace, or that photo was taken on a day where, oh, I didn't get that much sleep that day, which is sometimes the best launching point for one of these writings. Just a tad of delirium.
So tad of delirium. One of the recent Inktober entries, I don't know where you got some of these. The rainbow, this one, can you see it if I hold it up like that?
I can. So that's not one of mine, but that is right. The thing that I've loved about Inktober, and there's also Inktober 52 for those that are like, I can't write everything for a day. I can't draw that much. It's writing once a week. It's drawing once a week, and it could be a little ink flourish on parchment, and it can be digital ink. But the amount of artistry and just talent is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's almost like a value mart, and it's all there. It's free. It's just, do you have the time to see it?
Yeah. This one is called this poem by CoRy. I think I hope it's okay to call it a poem. Is called 20 Seconds or 20 Sec.
Oh yeah.
Time to wash my hands, lather up. Here we go. 1 for the numbers in my quarantine. 2 for the nurses I knew when we were young. 3 for the hours in between I eat. 4 for the soldiers I risk when it's my turn. 5 for the fingers that shake when I'm done. 6 for the work days I no longer have. 7 for a long week, one I never knew. 8 for group texts that keep the tears at bay. 9 for the likes this post may get. 10 for the limit that I can handle in Zoom. 11 times I begin to cry. 12 for the cookies I eat all the cookies I eat throughout the day. 13 for the last day I saw the world. 14 for the news alerts that wake me from my slumber. 15 for the check-ins that keep my smile nimble. 16 for the steps I made outside my house. 17 for new favorites on my Spotify. 18 for the number of times I ask God why. 19 for Quartet, one of Roland's ambivalent crew. 20 for the ones I may one day lose. Now my hands are clean, my mind is tired, and my heart, it misses you. Stay warm, stay safe. For the girl I still don't know, one day will laugh between a barrier as I read this post to you. Our lips will press together between the plastic as we say goodbye, and I will know this is love. Wow.
So that was when they kept saying like 20 seconds. That's how long you got to wash your hands. That was also when my depression was really spiraling, and what was actually kind of nice and fun and still seeing a part of the hecticness was the Impro group text. As you are very much aware, sometimes there is an abundance and sometimes they're not, and I was actually yearning for them because it was the only connection I was having, because when I grew up, I had a lot of respiratory chronic illnesses, so COVID was a big huge block for me. And that was why I didn't go out even for 100 days straight.
We should we're running shy on time a little bit, but we should talk a little bit about the countdown to surgery and what that means. This week, we're sort of boosting the new GoFundMe for CoRy's surgery, and this Impro Talk episode, plus we're doing a couple of reruns of the Impro Theater, the first Impro Theater streaming show called The Portal, which is improvised episodes of The Twilight Zone. And also Ripley Improv are doing some shows for CoRy's GoFundMe, and Outside In Theater are doing some shows for CoRy's GoFundMe, all in the countdown to surgery. You referred to this concept of tethered cord syndrome. You referred to it as fat on the phylum,
yes.
which is also the name of an old, you said it reminds you of, it could be the name of an old British pub.
Yes.
Fat on the phylum. Can you talk about what the surgery is about?
Yeah, no problem.
Coming up?
So tethered cord often happens after craniocervical fusion is done. What happens is your symptoms, if you are a person that lives with CCI or craniocervical instability, your symptoms are pretty much gone after the surgery, and then weeks to sometimes months later, they come back with a vengeance. And you often will go back to the doctor, imaging, and they see, oh, your cord, the bottom of the spine is tethered around the coccyx area. So it's the best way to describe it is IT department, no slack.
Okay.
So if you pull a computer that has no slack, you're ripping out that wall and you're also breaking your connection.
Yeah.
So in a way, physically, that's what's happening. What's unusual is this shows up on my imaging right now, today, November 6th. Wink, wink, because this was recorded earlier. The best jokes are the ones you have to explain, folks. Write that down. And so the doctor even said, he's like, we can see it. And then he showed us the x-ray, and Dad and I can see it. It's clear as day that there is a pocket of fat discoloration in an MRI imaging. And so that needs to be punctured. It's almost like the knot at the end of a balloon. We have to break that knot so that the nerves can move through, because they move through the bottom of your spine. And possibly this might give me better balance, could restore feeling in my legs. But if anything, it is done so that when we do the surgery in January, there will be a better chance of a more positive outcome.
I see.
Did that make sense?
It absolutely did.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's when the listeners are like, yes. Where do I hit yes? I can't hit yes.
We're in post production, much like the magic that you do. I'm going to do some things so that people will be able to see how to go to your GoFundMe and all that sort of
Hooray.
thing. But I'm not as I don't have the wizardry that you have, where I can actually point to areas of the screen where things are
Right.
happening. And like CoRy does this thing sometimes where he says, "Look, can we make that smaller?" and kind of moves his hand, and of course it moves with him with his hand, and etc.
That's because when I was doing tech for Impro, both student shows, class shows, and even main company shows, the things that could be asked for could happen. Like, oh, I wish it wasn't so cloudy this day. And then it starts raining.
I love, this is a great segue that you've done to help us gently end this episode of Impro Talk, which is to talk about your improv and technical technical work in theater. You come to improv, you start doing classes and performances. And what led you to then start, manipulating lights and sounds in the theater?
The first show I ever saw at Impro was Ripley's debut of their long form show, so their hour-long show. And watching it, I ended up on the edge of my seat, and I thought the music that I was hearing was in my head. I was like, because that's what I do. I create music to scenes. Like I do that automatically.
Sure.
I always have.
You have a soundtrack playing while things are going on. You're sort of like a music supervisor for your own mind and what you're doing.
Oh, for sure.
And I have that too.
The movie scores are my favorite type of music too. And so I looked over when my mind realized this is happening live. The tech's happening live. And I look over and I saw Emily Jacobson, and she was in the booth. And I came up to her afterwards and I probably freaked her out because I was just like fangirling in such a way. I was like, and then the way you did this, and she's like, yeah, glad you liked it. And I might have came on a little too strong. Emily, if you're listening, I apologize. But as soon as I got into theater sports, I was like, who does tech? And they're like, the person in charge of tech is the gentle giant, Paul Vanasek, who is another newly inducted company member, one of the Bearded Men, now of Bearded Company Los Angeles. And I said, I'm interested in learning. And I did tech in college. I did like classes for my theater minor. I did lighting and sound engineer. And so he's like, we're booked right now, but shoot me an email. So I shot him an email.
Yeah.
It was a year to the day. Mike Rock, I'm not kidding. A year to the day. Still interested in tech, buddy? Email came. I wrote him. I came in that day. He showed me. I started doing stuff for theater sports, and then learned a little more from Maddie and Alex Kahn and Arlo. Emily then gave me my first show, which was the show that she had originally started tech for, which was Stranger Suggestions.
Sure.
Which is an improvised in the style of Stranger Things, directed by Kelly Holden Bashar.
Yes.
So that was my first non-theater sports show. And then I think the first Impro main company show that I did and was super nervous to do, I think was a play unscripted.
That sounds
And
right.
yeah, and then from there, Lovecraft became the one where then I was like designing lighting cues, and then now there's like Rachel, who has come up from tech, and now she's like a tech whiz
Yeah,
where she's doing stuff that blows me away. So that's
yeah.
really exciting to see, and weird that she was like, "Hey, do you mind showing me?" And I was like, "Ah, that's exactly how I was with Emily." And yeah, it was a very full circle moment. But yeah, the portal was a brand new animal because that was taking tech to a digital medium with monochromatic lighting adjustments. And I don't think I don't think so. I don't think I missed a show. I think I teched all of them. Alex
Yeah.
joined in for composition and music. So then I was doing lights for, yeah, I don't think I missed one show.
Yeah, I think we did something like 24 or 25 weeks,
Holy
maybe. And
cow, we did that
I
many?
think I think we ended up with a something around 70 20-minute episodes.
Holy cow.
Each performance was 3 episodes.
Right.
If memory serves, I mean, it's sort of grayscale because we blended non-streamed full dress rehearsals kind of blended right into the performances. So we may have done fewer actual live stream performances than that, but definitely at least that many were as though they were a full show. So this was a 3-camera live stream shoot with live lighting technician and a live sound technician, as well as the a live video editor and camera operators and the whole thing. And CoRy was there for all of
With
them.
a live audience.
With a live audience, yeah, as a matter of fact. Um, and you were such an integral part of the look of the show, like what the audience ends up experiencing, and what the actors, helping the actors to experience different moments of when the light comes up over here, you can go over there and be spotlit and take your moment, have your emotional moment, or etc. Just really your hands really crafting the atmosphere on stage so that what comes through the camera and then onto the audience's screen feels like you're watching the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that it's entirely improvised and
It
ridiculous moments come up.
It was a very surreal moment when I was moving lights and adjusting them with a wrench when I had been a fan of Impro for so long. Because I was doing theater sports for a while, but I was seeing shows and I knew of all these people. So I was like I was a fanboy.
Yeah.
I went to as many shows as I could. I talked with like Mike Rock and other company members, and just to kind of just have just a window of it. So then when it was like, CoRy, you want to get lunch? I was like, oh my god, yes. But it was interesting when it became a castmate or a colleague as opposed to an audience member.
Yeah.
So I think also that was probably one thing that I really used to my benefit, because I had seen it from the back seat in the corner, and maybe you kind of miss this transition, but if you tilt it up just slightly, then you can see that person.
Yeah. Well, you brought to the table like all that knowledge of having watched so many improv shows and taken so many improv classes and then performed in shows yourself, that by the time you're behind the board, adjusting lights and sound, and then for the portal, with all of its complexity, you had a 360-degree knowledge of how it can all work together,
Yeah.
to best advantage. And we're, I'm speaking as one of the other people involved, we couldn't have done it without you.
Thanks, Mike.
So with luck, tomorrow night, November 7th,
Yeah. Look at the calendar, Mike. It's right in front of you.
there'll be another rerun of The Portal, interspersed with segments with me and CoRy. And but yes, so tomorrow night on this very channel, you'll be able to see The Portal and see what we're talking about if you haven't already. And CoRy, there's so much more to talk about, but we are out of time. So we'll do a follow-up.
Okay, yeah.
At some point.
After the surgery?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
But for now, what is a piece of advice you'd like to pass on to anyone?
I would say, even though you might have to take things slower, it's not as detrimental as you think. Taking things carefully, cautiously, especially when you're with invisible disability or invisible or mysterious illnesses, it is a pitfall. It is a trap. But keep your mind open, because you never know who will be there to support you when you fall.
That's great. Thank you for that.
And thank you for having me, Mike Rock.
This has been From the Couch with CoRy Wyszynski.
This has been Impro Talk with Mike Rock. Oh, wait, you're supposed to say that.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching more with CoRy later, go to his GoFundMe and help out. And stay tuned for more Impro Talks and more from the couches right here on YouTube. Thanks, CoRy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.